Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds better than Happy Monday. Every time I'm told Happy Monday, I want to punch somebody in the face.
Right?
But
It's just backhand them.
yeah, I
Yeah, happy Monday up yours.
I'll take Happy Saturday anytime. But Happy Monday, nah. Get the
Yeah.
hell out of here with that shit.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
All right then. So we are going to get started, Jojo, because I think we have quite a bit to talk about. I know, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
This series right there. Damn. What an interesting. I don't know if maybe this guy's life was actually boring and the writing of this show makes it as interesting.
I think maybe it's what is it, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think you kind of got an issue of maybe he's not quite as interesting as the series makes him out to be, but I think there's definitely some threads of truth that go through there.
Oh my god. The crazy I tried to read as much as I could of the real life story. And if you compare it then to the show, it's pretty accurate. In fact, there's a claim on the show that says that all of the names had been changed in blah 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 in some of the circumstances and stuff. But if you read the real life story on like every creditable website, there's not a great difference, really.
No, I really couldn't find anything different either myself. It seemed pretty. I mean, as they said, the conversations were imagined, but I mean, you have to do that. I mean, unless somebody was there recording the whole time,
Exactly. Yeah.
which unless Tricky Dick is in the room, that's probably not going to be the way it is. So
Sugar Dick is in the house. Yay. All right. So let's get going then
okay,
with the show. We're going to do intro, right?
intro.
Yeah. Let's intro then. Because you
Okay,
know what? Intro is a good thing. I'm not going to go ahead and say that intro is a bad thing. Not at all. You know,
never heard
intro.
you saying that.
No, not me. Mm-mm, no. Why? Because I've seen intro and I know that intro is actually a good guy, right? So, with that said, let's do intro, right? If I could just find intro though.
Intro's hiding.
Ready? All right, so let's do.
This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kicking and Streaming Podcast. My name is The Graham, and with me today is a very fantastic JoJo. I never tire of saying that she is not only fantastic, very fantastic. Hello, JoJo.
Hello, Graham. Howdy do.
How did you do to you, young madam?
I've had a busy day already.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have.
What you been up to, JoJo?
I've been doing yard work. I already got the yard mowed and like plants planted and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, of course.
I,
There
I
goes
don't I
JoJo
don't
making us feel like crap, you know?
no, seriously, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know if I accidentally took cocaine this morning and didn't notice. I don't know.
you all you know is that you've been busy.
Yeah, exactly. I really I don't know why. I don't know if somebody slipped something into my coffee or I snorted
You
a
know
couple
what?
lines and blacked out. I don't know.
You know, on a day like today, though, you might as well get it done. And the reason being is that it's kind of not really too sunny outside,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
that's a plus right there. And yesterday was a sunny day, and I ran some errands with Chris, right, with my wife, and she had to go to DMV to surrender a license plate and whatever. And she did the line, before you enter, there was a line all the way outside.
Of
And so
course.
later, later after that, we're at the store, and I looked at her neck, and it was like, she had been to the beach, and I'm like, when did you get it?
See, I get that too. I get that too. If I go outside and I forget to put sunscreen on the back of my neck, I get it just this little strip back here, and it pisses me off, man.
Dude.
It pisses me off.
And I'm like, it was like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. She and I, we're both very fair skinned.
Yeah, man, that's why I stayed in the car, man. I'm like, okay, call me when let me know when you get in there, and then I'll come with you. I stayed in the car.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna lie though, it's already 80 plus degrees, like more than mid 80s in the Carolinas already.
Yeah, it is.
It's
And the
no
pollen,
joke.
the pollen is insane. Like I came from an area where there was pollen, but this year I'm like, it rained a little tiny bit this morning, which is also part of the reason why I mowed the lawn, because I was like, maybe I won't die of an attack of allergies if it's rained a little bit. So I'm out there with my mask and everything. The neighbors think I'm nuts, but that's fine. I always
find it insulting that I am from a tropical island, but like I've struggled with allergies more living here in the United States than I ever did when I lived in the Caribbean. So I don't know.
Isn't that terrible? It's really
No
not
cool.
fair. When I lived out west, when I lived in Nevada, my sinuses were fine, which was delightful and amazing, because on the East Coast my sinuses blow up constantly. But I had the worst allergies. I had to take Claritin constantly, or otherwise I would have hives. It was terrible. People would look at me at work and be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh." And it's bad when somebody at work says, "Are you okay?" With that concerned, like, I'm not really sure if I should be asking, but I'm going to ask anyway. And I'm like, yeah.
Child, I see you struggle. Oh, that's funny, man. So we should get started by saying that today we are reviewing a Netflix limited series called The Serpent. This series was originally commissioned and presented by BBC in England in January. So to our listeners, of course, in Europe, especially in Great Britain, this is not new. But this series just premiered this week on Netflix, and we are absolutely delighted with it. Alexa, shut the fuck up. Thank you very much.
She doesn't know how to answer that, so she's just gonna keep chattering when you tell her to shut up. Mine actually does respond to "shut the fuck up," which made my husband's day the first time I screamed out at her, and she just shut up.
You kidding? Tell me about this. No, hold on. Because this one might be dumb enough that she doesn't even understand. I don't think I understand that.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I got the tone right or something, but she was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna mess with this bitch." So yeah, I'm quiet. Don't know me. I'll never to be talking too much. You'll never catch me talking too much. Nope. I'll be quiet right over here.
You know what, Jojo? You deserve a round of applause for this. I just figured, like, we've been podcasting from the Rodecaster Pro for the longest time now, for more than 3 months, and we've never used the sound effects and shit. So we might as well, like, whenever you throw one of them jokes there, Jojo, I'm gonna be like,
I've always wanted that. My
oh,
whole
really?
life. Yeah.
Give me some weird joke.
Oh Lord. Why did the cowboy buy a dachshund?
Why?
Because he always wanted to get along, little doggy.
Get along, little doggy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you this, but I've been like binge listening to this podcast by Dana Carvey. It's called Fantastic. which is one of my words, right?
It is.
and and Dana Carvey has this weird character that he does called uh, uh, necky rednecky something. It's supposed to be the stand-up comedian that is he's making fun of those redneck stand-up comedians like Larry the Cable Guy and whatever.
The ones who
And
really aren't or whatever.
exactly. And then he
Yeah.
says something about like, oh, I know a redneck. He married his sister because his mama turned him down. And then he'll be like, no, no, no. His mama turned him down. And then his catchphrase is, "Come get some." You know how like Larry the Cable Guy does. Get her done, get her done.
Get her done.
So his thing is he ends every joke with "Come get some," and then he does the rim shot.
That's fantastic. I love it.
The thing about Dana Carvey is that, and I know we're going on a tangent, but the thing about Dana Carvey is that he is able to repeat the same joke over and over and over and over and over and over again. That to any other person doesn't be like, yeah, shut the fuck up with that already, right? But Dana Carvey can do it over and over, and you still laugh at it because it's so silly.
He is. He's. I don't know. There's something about him that is equal parts adorable and a little bit scary at the same time. And I don't mean that in like a weird way or anything. I just mean like super intelligent.
Yeah. This mama turned down. Come get some. All right, back to business, Jojo. So we're talking about the Serpent, and I am fascinated by this series. I remember last week when we talked about, how we were going to approach this series. I told you I probably will watch 2 episodes during the weekend, and then for the remainder of the week, I'm going to take one episode, and by the time it's Friday, I'm done with it. I have to report that I started it on Monday night, and I was done with it by Wednesday night. I found myself twice going to bed at 1 a.m. watching the damn show because, God, it is good. Holy crap, it is good, isn't it?
It is, and I have a confession to make to you.
Tell me about it.
I did not finish the series,
What?
but I did not finish the series for the weirdest reason I think that I can come up with. It gave me nightmares.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I have not had a show give me nightmares since I was a little kid, and this show gave me nightmares.
Wow.
I don't know why. I don't know why. It's not super gory. It's not, there's not. I've watched more violent things, but this, I don't know if it's where I am in my life right now or what, but I had nightmares. So I have finished a good portion of it, enough to feel like I can talk about it, but I could not.
Right.
I could not get through the end because every single night I was having these horrible, jerking me awake nightmares.
Well, there was a weirdly creepy element of the show that I couldn't put my hands on, right? Like, again, like most of the crimes and the killings and stuff you don't see,
Right.
And the manner in which this particular killer killed was never way too gory or whatever. Like there was very few of that, like blood. It was not much of that really. So, but there was something that could leave you thinking that you could easily make you think, yeah, wow. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
So I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed everything that I watched, but as soon as I was asleep, I was having horrible nightmares. And that has not happened to me since I was a little kid. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
And so, with that said, Jojo, tell us what this series is about.
So this is a very, very cool series. So as you said, it was originally a BBC production. brought over by Netflix for us. It's 8 parts, and it follows the true story. Of course, it's been fictionalized and made a little more, I guess, fantastical, if you will, but follows the true story of a murderer, a serial killer, between in the 70s and the time when a lot of people were trying to find themselves and they were on like the monastery trek, and it was the hippie journey was sort of like I think they called it the I made a note of it, the hippie trail, I think,
The
something
South
like that.
Asian Hippie Trail, yes.
Yes. And so this is a man that took advantage of the fact that these people, especially in the 70s, would not be in constant contact with people that cared about them, and used them, killed them for their passports, for whatever money they might have had on them, for their identities, essentially. And this is the story of him and his sort of not completely on board with it cohort played by Jenna Coleman.
Yeah, a let me turn you right back here. Yeah, that's the summary of it. But this show, it's the closest thing to his biography, no, to Charles Sobrage biography. And as we were talking about, in the beginning, like they claim that the circumstances were changed and things like that, but it is pretty close to the reality of what was happening. And I think you were on point, Jojo, when you said that maybe in terms of the dialogue, of course, since nobody would have been there to document everything, but other than that, the and some names were changed, right? Like the Dutch couple, wasn't Bloom and Decker. There were different people, but some of the names actually stayed quite the same. The Mary Jo something or the other, the girl from Seattle, they remain the same within the story. Because if you go and find the real story of Charles Sobrage, you will be familiar with those names once you've watched the series. But really, I want to say, of all the stories of serial killers that I've read or watched about, this one is one of the most remarkable ones. And it's hard, it's weird to say, because we're talking about somebody, but this was not. If you were a if you're a profiler, you would have a hard time understanding this serial killer
Yes.
if you went based on science or on some people say that profiling is a pseudoscience, but if you went strictly on the science of profiling, if you went strictly on the science of creating a psychological profile of this killer, then you would have struggled. And it took someone who was just looking at it from the outside without any insight of the human mind, just good. Like, I remember one time you referred to somebody that we talked about in the show as a dog with a bone, like
Yes.
someone
Yes.
who was a dog with a bone that wouldn't let go of it.
Yes.
And that's basically what saved this situation here. But Charles Sobrage, by no means, was a typical serial killer.
No, and I think we've talked about this before on the show too. Whenever we've talked about fictional, because I think we've really only covered Ted Bundy when we've talked about serial killers, but when we have talked about them in their fictional portrayals, the the profile really doesn't seem to be necessarily the norm when you look at those who are actually caught as serial killers. Like when we talked about, the story that we just talked about that was based on the BTK killer, and the
Yeah.
fact that he had a family, things like that. So I personally am not a big believer in profiles. I'm gonna go with them being pseudoscience because I just, and obviously I don't know anything. I know nothing, but it just from what you see and from those that are caught, very few of them actually fit any of what we've constantly told over and over and over again. So this serial killer and this series is very his level of manipulation,
Yeah.
he is nearly unbelievable. His ability to essentially get into people's minds and make them do what he wants them to do is almost the level of him being hypnotic.
Yes.
And it's fascinating. And I understand why it's called the Serpent because you know
Yeah.
the whole idea of snakes being able to hypnotize people and that kind of silly thing. But it's very I've never seen anything like it. I've never read anything like it, and it's very very creepy.
And I think also it paints the picture of it is sometimes better to be charming than being scary.
Yes.
Because not a lot of people did things for him because they feared him, but rather because he will inspire this sense of loyalty.
Yes.
Like, because he who saves your life is to whom you owe your life, right?
Yes. Yes.
And he creates these situations where he literally saves your life.
Yes.
And of course you become indebted to somebody who you genuinely believe may have saved your life. But here's my crazy thing. Do you think Charles Sobrage was an accidental serial killer as he claims to be, or do you think that he really had the malice he intended at all time to kill? Because what lacks here for me to call him a serial killer is the fact that I don't know that he ever showed that uncontrollable desire of killing. And so it makes me think, is this somebody who, ended up piling up bodies because he made the same mistakes, with overdosing his victims? Or you think that every time someone died under his care was because he intended to kill them?
I think I think that the people that died in his care were people that he intended to kill in the sense of they were either not useful for him anymore or they were becoming too much of a difficulty for him. I don't think he was capable. To me, he didn't seem like he was capable of enough human feeling and emotion to see people as anything other than tools or obstacles. You're either a tool to me or you're an obstacle to me. So if you're a tool, I'm going to use you. If you're an obstacle, I'm going to remove you. And I think maybe with some people he made mistakes and removed them accidentally. But I think most of the ones that he did remove, he just considered them an obstacle. You're not useful to me anymore, and I'm just gonna put you to sleep.
Yeah. So where I'm struggling is because I definitely can see the sociopathic tendencies of Charles Sobrage in that respect, because as you just said, he sees people as tools, and you are either useful to me or not. And in that sense, I will never recognize any pain that I'm causing you because I'm incapable of understanding other people's pain. What I can do is mimic, social sentiment and feelings,
Yes.
because that's what I do, right?
Yes.
But do I actually feel those things? Can I actually experience those things? I can't. And in that same sense, I would ask you, do you think he actually ever fell in love with either of the two women? Or was he just obsessed with his first wife? or with Marie-Andree for that matter.
I I don't think he was ever truly in love with them. Not in the sense that a normal, quote unquote, normal human being would. He may have had a different kind of feeling towards them than he did other people. They might have blurred the line a little bit for him between tool and obstacle, but I don't think he ever truly fell in. It wasn't in love with them. I don't think he was capable of that because if he was, and I'm not trying to portray anybody as being 100% bad or 100% good, but I just feel that if he was capable of feeling that sort of love, then he would understand loss. And I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say.
All right. All right.
It's kind of a non-answer, isn't it?
No, man, I'm cool. I'm cool with you. But how much of his activity do you think was sort of like trying to be a copycat of? Because it seems like he was more of a I want attention, right? And serial killers tend to do that, right?
Yes. Yes, they do.
But the whole idea of sort of like creating a following, he couldn't operate without having a following.
It makes you think of it made me think of some of the cult leaders that lead their congregations, their people that believe in them. The word is gone. To bad ends, and they aren't. You could think of the Jonestown massacre, and the leader behind that planned to kill all of those people. I mean, he had everything planned from the beginning, and so he is not called a serial killer. He's not even called a mass murderer. But the same sort of cult of personality, the same sort of hypnotism, the same sort of incredibly charming personality that is also hides in a very, very dark side. So I kind of felt that he had to have those followers. He had to have those people cheering him on and being close to him, much like a cult leader does.
Yeah, but wasn't Manson also like into the whole creating a little group around
Yes, he
himself?
was. Yes, he was.
So that's what makes me think of him more as a copycat. In that, you know, I want fame, I want glory, I want luxury, but also I want to be adored. I want to be followed. I want to be somebody's example. You know, like I think of Charles Sobrage as somebody who is in constant fear of being insignificant, and what his resource is basically to self-aggrandize, right? Unlucky for the world, at the time there was no Instagram, there was no social media to just turn himself into some kind of influencer.
Yeah.
So he began to do these kind of things because I'm struggling to see the real serial killer, but rather in absolutely pathetic an absolutely pathetic
Cult leader?
cult
Like
leader. Yeah,
he failed as a cult leader and became a serial killer?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
I
I can see that. I can see that because it again, the very magnetism, the very hypnotic personality, the ability to like. There's the scene in very early on in the series where he with the Dutch backpackers and he helps them with a ring, with buying a ring and shows them a ring, and how he was able to see and understand that this young man wants to give this young woman a ring. This is very important to him. So the way for me to bind myself to him is to get him with a ring, to this physical thing. He needs to give this to her. And the fact that he understood that and was able to use that weakness against them to bring them
Yes.
into his court, if you will, I found very, very fascinating that someone who apparently does not feel human feelings is so capable of understanding them and using them and manipulating them.
That's the beauty of it, because I think so. If you go back to the beginning of I think to Charles Sobrage's origin, is that so he is the son of a Vietnamese mother and an Indian father. The father and the mom separates, and he disappears. The father disappears. The mom ends up marrying a French military person or whatever. And as soon as little brothers and little sister come along, then Charles basically is devoid of attention from either of the parent and the step parent. And that was his grudge. That was his entire grudge the entire time, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's like the beginning of his descent into madness. Is that I have to show the people who didn't love me as a kid that I'm deserving of love, and I can get a stranger's love, or any stranger's love for that matter. And not only that, but I'm going to manipulate the rest of the world to love me. And that explains even his end. You know what I mean? Like, the guy goes to prison in India, and he's adored in the prison. He is
Yeah.
adored. They love him. He's like Jesus Christ in the prison. You know? And he uses his smart and his intelligence to escape spectacularly from prison every time. And it's no, like, I killed a couple of people and blah, 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 and created a riot and escaped. That's not what he did. He just created the best situations to get himself out. So that to me is an unimaginable ability, and I think it's all about him trying to feel loved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And maybe even, feel loved and maybe finally feel love himself. Finally feel that emotion for himself and understand what it is. If I can get enough people to love me, then I will feel it myself and I'll understand what all this is about. I don't know. I'm just bullshitting.
What do you think of Marie-Andree, the Québécoise?
I wanted to ask you about her accent. Because I remember
Yeah.
one time at work we had a conversation about the accent, the Canadian accent.
Yes.
And I know this is off topic, but when you said that, I need to know what you thought of Jenna Coleman's work on the accent.
So I thought about, and I paused it to rant with my wife about the accent. Here's the crazy thing. First of all, Jenna Coleman speaks very good French, like an absolutely fantastic French, like boarding school French, right?
Okay.
But speaking in French, she spoke like a French person.
Okay.
When she spoke English, she spoke like a Quebecois would speak English
Okay.
with that accent.
Okay.
And that bothered me the entire time. She does not sound as a Quebecian when she speaks in French. She sounded like a Parisian or a Belgian, for that matter. Like it was like a really neutral, well-spoken French.
Okay.
But whenever she spoke English, and if you've heard a Quebecian trying to speak English, you're like, yep, there is that accent. I will return to Canada and da 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 da, and I'm like, I wonder if she knows people are going to notice that.
Well, I did read that she did not speak one word of French until 4 weeks before the production. And she crammed 4 weeks to learn French in 4 weeks.
Well, that is a super, super, whatchamacallit, a superhero type of shit.
Yeah,
A superpower.
there's no way in the world that would ever happen. So I think she probably, I mean, that probably explains some of it, because if she only had 4 weeks to learn, then she probably learned French from a Frenchman or French woman, or whatever, a program that Rosetta Stone, whatever.
Right.
But the English part, maybe there was an actual coach for that part to speak. I don't know. But I was curious about the accent, because to me, and I don't know, I mean, I don't speak French, but to me, when she spoke French, I was like, she sounds like a Parisian to me.
Yes.
And I'm not, it doesn't sound quite Canadian to me, but I am by no means an expert. I'm like, I got to talk to Graham. I got to ask him. I got to talk to my polyglot and be like, what is she doing?
It was so weird, because here's the crazy thing. When a Quebec person talk to you, if you know French, but you've never heard a Quebec person, like, what the hell are you talking? What language is this? You know what I mean? Until you figure out, oh, okay. So until you listen, I remember a Québécois person told me one time, il faut me parler doucement parce que je comprends pas. And I'm like, I'm the one who doesn't understand you. Like, you're the one who has to speak slowly, because I really don't know what the hell you're saying. Do you know? and it's not only the cadence of the way they speak; it's the words and the expression. So to give you a good example, although her English has become quite neutral, whenever Celine Dion speaks English for a good amount of time, like, say she takes an interval of about 3 minutes speaking,
Yes.
somehow you will feel the Quebecian accent creep into her English.
Okay.
If she's just saying a couple of words, bam, she sounds like she's right here from, either from the United States, or from English speaking Canada.
Regular Canada.
Regular Canada. But whenever it's a couple of minutes into the conversation, if you're paying attention, you will hear that creeps in. And so when Jenna Coleman spoke English, that's what I heard there. I heard a Quebecian-born person who speaks English and still has the accent. But when she spoke French, I was like, that's fucking French. I don't know what she's doing. Does she know that? Like, But the time thing, I know now that you mention it, actually makes perfect sense. I don't know that she would have had enough time to get familiar with accents and all that shit. But anyway, she was impeccable. She
Yeah.
was impeccable.
Yeah.
I know that once you have enough French in your head, I suppose you can memorize a script. But the problem is, I have heard people who've memorized script in another language and don't sound conversational. I've heard actors who've memorized a couple of words or a part of a conversation in German, and once I hear the German, I'm like, they're speaking German, but they don't sound like they know what they're saying.
Yeah, they don't. They're
just
making
reciting.
noises.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah.
reciting something that they've learned. And that is horrible.
Yeah.
But you will only know that if you can speak the language, right?
Yeah.
In Jenna Coleman's case, that wasn't the case. She phrased things and paused, and like she characterized the cadence of her of her speech in French was absolutely perfect. It didn't sound like learned. It just didn't sound Quebecois.
Yeah.
So there's that. But we have to talk about the similarities of the cast and the actual people in the
Yes.
story.
Yes.
The casting here was almost perfect.
Yes. I agree.
I was after I started doing my research and stuff. I'm like, my God! Especially Marie-Andree Leclerc, Jenna Coleman. Jenna Coleman looked like Marie-Andree Leclerc, but here's the crazy thing: only in the black and white picture. There is a picture of Marie-Andree Leclerc where it's not in black and white; it's actually in color, and then you will see that it's not. It wasn't that much of a you know. But let me see if I can do a screen search here. Let me do it. Let me share screen here. Doom.
Yeah.
Da da da. La la la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Da 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 da. Okay. So here's Nippenberg. Not the bloodbound dude, no. So that's Billy Howe on one side, and of course Nippenberg. But the thing is, there is a younger picture of Nippenberg, and I think in the younger picture, if you put it next to Billy Howe, they don't look alike that much. But when you put this picture next to Billy Howe, it does look like an aged Billy Howe.
It does very much. Like the jawline is very
Yeah.
similar, and the level of the nose between the mouth and the yeah.
Yeah,
Very, very similar. Yeah.
that's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Charles Sobrage, he's the real Charles Sobrage, right? And next to Tahar Rahim, there is, yeah, okay. So here's Tahar Rahim as an older Charles Sobrage. My take is that as a younger Charles Sobrage, he sells it. As an older Charles Sobrage, you can see the differences.
Yeah. I generally, not always, but generally feel that with actors, that when they're playing a character that's older than they are in real life, very few of them seem to. It must be incredibly difficult to do because it very few seem to be able to play older than they are by a significant amount.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to me, but it's an interesting. But yeah,
but-
there they could be the same person.
Yeah, yeah. But here, this is where I was like, oh my Lord.
Yeah,
There she is.
yeah,
There she is. But only in this black and I found a photo of Marie-Andree Leclerc in color, and she actually had blonde hair at that point.
okay.
She was just slightly older and she had blonde hair. And then the resemblance to Jenna Coleman completely disappeared. Yeah. But okay, so let's talk a bit about the cast, if you will, Jojo. As Charles Sobrage, what do you think of Tahar Rahim?
Oh, I mean, obviously he was great because he gave me nightmares. I mean, it was the whole production, but I mean, it was he was brilliant as this very, very manipulative character and believable.
Do you know what? Like, first of all, in the beginning, I didn't even realize that was Tahar Rahim. And he seems to be able to do that with everything he does. Because the very first time I saw Tahar Rahim, do you remember once I spoke about a series on Hulu called The Looming Tower?
Yes.
And that series was about the sort of like not before 9/11, how the CIA and the FBI couldn't, come together to pursue all the intelligence that existed, sort of like predicting that 9/11 was going to happen. And that there was one particular FBI agent who featured very prominently there, called Ali Sufyan. And in that series, who played Ali Sufyan was actually Tahar Rahim.
Okay.
But the crazy thing is, I didn't even know that was him. I didn't even know that was him. Doesn't look like him at all. But here's another thing. My dude was nominated for Best Actor in this year in the Golden Globes. Do you remember we talked about the movie The Mauritanian?
Yeah.
That Jodie Foster was also nominated.
Yes.
And Tahar Rahim played the Mauritanian.
Okay.
And if you go and take a look at the movie, don't look like my boy at all.
So he's a very chameleon-like actor. He can change.
Is absolutely great like that. And here he transformed into Charles Sobrage. Like when you see that picture where he's standing and Marie-Andree is sitting,
Yes.
that's Charles Sobrage. That's Charles Sobrage. Like that. But here's the thing. Charles Sobrage is half Vietnamese, half Indian. Right? Tahar Rahim is North African. He's of Algerian descent.
Okay.
And so I can see some heavy makeup there because North Africans, most of them will look more like Sicilians,
Okay.
which is like one of the running jokes on Italians is that Sicilians aren't even European. Like, you're from Sicily, you're not even European. You're like North African. Some of them take it as a joke. Some of them will tell you, "Hey, vaffanculo." But yeah, so Algerians, obviously in France and the rest of Europe they're considered people of color. But to be honest, they can look as European as Europeans look, as long as they have the the brunette hair and whatever. And so that's the thing here. You can see some heavy makeup, especially in the chin, when you look at Tahar Rahim as Charles Sobrage. But other than that, he's exactly the man, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy watching performances. I mean, actors are awesome, but to be able to, the people that can pick up other mannerisms and just completely become a different person when they're acting are fascinating to me. And then, of course, the actors who are the same person in every movie, that's cool too. But it's really neat to see somebody that just changes their mannerisms or changes their way of speaking or changes the way they walk just for a role, and maybe it's not even necessarily to mimic someone. Maybe it's not a documentary style thing. Maybe they're just
they create a person that is beyond the actor that we know.
Yes, and I like watching that sort of transformation because that's fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, that's, I mean, come on, it's unbelievable. It's Jenna Coleman, we've already talked about how she, I think if once we talk about awards and stuff, this show should be winning a lot of things. And maybe in the 2022 BAFTA, we'll hear a lot about it. And who knows, maybe next Golden Globes, we'll hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
Because award season here is far gone. It's a miracle that the Oscars are still around yet. But and this show premiered in January in the UK. So I don't know that they would have qualified for anything this year.
Right.
But if they are taken into consideration, there's gonna be, because here's the thing. One guy who proved himself to be a star, and I've never heard of this guy before, and I couldn't find any more on his credit but these the Serpent, is the dude that played Ajay Chowdhury.
He was amazing. He was.
Yes.
He was. I truly enjoyed him when he was on screen.
Yes.
He was a very, very good actor.
In fact, I found him more charming than the character of the Serpent.
Yes, yes, and I
But
think
he was scary too.
he was scary too. He was, and I felt like he was almost like the wingman, if that's, I don't know,
Yeah,
like oh, I'll or the bait, if you will.
he's the bait. Yes.
But he was very, very good.
I loved him. His name is Amesh Edirewera. He is, like, the two credits that he has are The Serpent and Shakespeare Live. That's it. That's all I can find of him. I can find of him.
He did a great job.
Man, he was dope.
Yep.
His education is from the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. So
A Welshman.
he is from, yeah. He is superb. I think best supporting actor it would be a well-deserved thing here for
I
him.
agree. I agree. He was great.
Billy Hoyle was very convincing as a Dutchman. Very, like, the accent. Look, I know it's easy to, as long as you're speaking English, it's very easy to speak to mock a Dutchman speaking speaking English. Like, the accent of a Dutchman is a very peculiar one.
Wasn't that in an Austin Powers movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
His father. But Billy Howell was very convincing, man. I was like, is it really? Is it? And by the way, I don't speak much Dutch. So whenever the conversation changed into Dutch between him and the wife, I'm not sure I could tell you, oh, that's authentic or not. But I know that his English mimicking a Dutchman's accent was on point. Because it sounds like every Hans or Jürgen that I've ever met. so that was good.
It's always awesome when that kind of thing happens, because one, it shows a lot of attention to detail on the production part or on the actor's part or whoever, but because they know that there's only a certain amount of people are going to pay attention to that, but that certain amount of people are going to be completely torn out of the experience if this is wrong. So that level of attention to detail to me is awesome when the production is like, no, let's get this right.
Yeah, and I think it's also out of respect, because you're going to show these movies in the countries where,
Yes.
well, this is done too, right?
Yes.
Where the portrayal has been done. And so you want it to be as accurate as possible, although most movies are dubbed in, like, I was watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier last night.
Okay.
And I stayed for some reason. I stayed for all the late credits, because that shit has 7 minutes of credit.
Yeah, WandaVision too has like, yeah. Yes.
And so, towards the end, it tells you about the doublage, the dubs of in every language, right? And for Spain, they do a regular Castilian, And then they do also a version in Catalan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and
That's
then they
interesting.
do so that's they do five different Spanish dubbing. So they do Castilian, Catalan, they do Latin American Spanish, like a more neutral Central American. They do a Mexican version of Spanish, and then they will do a version that is more for Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay with voices like that. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot of work.
That is a lot
Because
of work. But
it's not like a person from Uruguay and Paraguay wouldn't understand me if I spoke like a Dominican to them. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose it makes the experience better for the geographical location. I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah, yeah.
So I suppose Quebecois will never realize that Jenna Coleman was not speaking French like a Quebecois when she spoke Quebecois, when she spoke French, because it's gonna get dubbed anyway, unless they decide to leave every part that is in French. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ellie Bamber played Angela Nippenberg. And here's the crazy thing. This woman is still around. She is actually a big shot. She she retired in 2015, but she made it to Undersecretary of the UN. So she went on to be like a huge ass diplomat, furthermore, like in the echelon than Nippenberg, the ex husband, ever made it. Right? And she actually takes issue with her portrayal in this series
Ah.
because she says that she is portrayed as the dutiful wife, and she said that her role in helping Nippenberg with this case was far more than they portrayed in the series, and that she wasn't just chauffeuring him around or whatever.
Right.
Like it was a 50-50 partnership because Nippenberg run most of his ideas by her. And some of the leads that Nippenberg took towards the truth were based on ideas that she put out.
But okay.
You know,
I would take issue with that as well if I were her, and it also makes more sense, because she was introduced to us as an extremely intelligent person
yes,
with a great education and that sort of thing. So for her to just be the chauffeur, that's insulting. So yeah, I'd be pissed off too, because it would make sense for it to be a 50-50, for it to be a collaboration, for it to be something that they worked on together. That makes much more sense than her just driving him around and just translating.
yeah. So, and also she took issue with Ellie Bamber's portrayal of her, like in terms of what she looked like.
Oh,
Because, as a matter of fact, the most miscast in there was her. I think I have a picture. So here's what. Let me go and do the screen sharing again, so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, so there you go. There you go. Here's the real Angela around the time of the thing of the crimes going on and whatever. And that's what Ellie Bamber looked like in the series.
yeah, yeah.
That's not her.
No, it's not.
That
It's
is
not.
not her.
And it would be one thing if that had been the decision they had made with everyone, like, oh, we're not going to cast anybody to look like anybody else, but to single her out, yeah, that's not cool.
And here's what I was talking about Nippenberg. Like,
Yeah.
when young, like, I mean, it's a little bit, it looks a little bit, but really where they nailed it is Billy Howe and the old picture, the picture of an old Nippenberg. Here it looks like, okay, this man has aged quite a bit, and You know, that's what he used to look like as a young man.
Yeah.
And finally, here's the one difference I wanted to show you. Okay, so here she is. That's what Marie-Andree Leclerc ended up looking like.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
quite a difference.
yeah, it's great.
Still got those deep set eyes, though.
Yeah, yeah. So I still believe that this was an absolutely fantastic casting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a great series, and hopefully someday I'll be able to finish it.
How many episodes did you make it to?
I made it through about 6.
Oh, you you'll be alright. You'll finish. You. I mean, it doesn't. I think from episode 7 and 8 deals more with the chasing and the escapes and the imprisonment and the whole thing. So watch it in the middle of the day and watch it with the dogs and stuff. See.
And they love television, so
Yeah, it amazes me the kind of things that my dogs watch. Like, really? That's what calls your attention? Seriously, the Today Show. Come on,
oh, that's good.
man. Anyway, so we recommend the show and don't let it do you like it did to Jojo. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I think it's just an aberration with me, but yeah, no, and I think it's a testament to how good it is.
It is a fantastic show, and I think everything about this, the dialogues were great. The parts where they took artistic liberties, I think, also obviously not accurate, but it sort of like remained within the arc of the story. I don't think it went very far off, or it betrayed the reality of the story. It was creative liberties that they took mostly to complete the picture. I would say, as opposed to just changing everything around. You know,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think when they reveal Charles's relationship with his mother, some of that has a lot to do with creative liberties. The whole relationship with the daughter and the whole thing, some of that too. But
Yeah.
but other than that, you know, it was pretty on point.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, the most fascinating thing about this series is the fact that almost everybody is still around except for Paul and Marie-Andree. Paul died, I think, in 2004. Marie-Andree died in 1984 of ovarian cancer. But other than that, everybody's still around. Nippenberg, Angela are still around. The Giers, Nadine, and the dude, although divorced, but they are still around. Nadine runs a resort in Thailand, and Gier has a farm, a tropical fruit farm that he has and sells tropical fruits. So not only should you binge watch this, but if you do your research, you will still find pictures of what these people look like today.
Yeah.
You know, so good on Tahar Rahim as a lead man here. Jenna Coleman, absolutely fantastic, and the rest of the cast, especially the dude who played Ajay Chowdhury. I want to see more of this guy.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
definitely want.
I agree. I agree. I'm interested as to how he got the part, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner at all. I just because doesn't seem to have much of a back, television or movies or that sort of thing. I would love to know who was like, I saw him in this and he was fabulous and he's going to do this,
Well, I also think that based on the only picture that exists of Ajay, he probably is the only person who looks a lot like Ajay that was available. Because Jocelyn, so Ajay has not been seen since 1976. They don't know if he's dead. Somebody supposedly reported seeing him in West Germany at some point, but they could not corroborate that. But the only picture that exists of Ajay is this, right? And so that's, yeah, I'd say right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I if you combine that with obviously the casting directors would have known that he's a fantastic actor, and the fact that if he grows a beard like that, he looks pretty much like Ajay Chowdhury. So yeah, you got the part, But I would be very upset if when awards towards this show is talked about, he's not nominated for a best supporting actor here.
I agree.
I would be upset because I think he was. I know it's gonna be between him and Billy Howe, but at least the nomination he deserved, and I wouldn't mind if it's a split between him and Billy Howe. If he wins, great. If Billy Howe wins, great. But I don't think he should be left behind for a
Yeah.
nomination.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
He was very, very good.
My God, he was good. So I kept asking, like, who is this dude? Who is that guy? Who is that guy? Who's that guy? I mean, that was my question. Who's that guy? All right, well, I think we're gonna call it a day, Jojo, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it and gushed.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long time since we gushed about a series. I don't know. Like, I know that we've done quite a bit of movies lately, but the fact is, I enjoy really talking about series. Whenever I'm watching a series, and I know that there's the prospect of us sitting down and blabbling about it for an hour and plus, I'm happy.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
So we would like to invite you to find us on social media. If you'd like to follow, we are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Kicking and Streaming Podcast. So on Facebook, on Twitter, sorry, is going to be Kicking and Streaming, Kicking the letter N and Streaming, right? And on Instagram, you'll find us. Just do a search. But also, if you go to the show notes, all of the hyperlinks to our social media are there. You can go ahead and just click on that and follow. We would like to hear from you. We would always love to hear from you. If you've got something to say, if you've got something to suggest, if you have a show or a movie that you would like us to review, we very much would love to hear from you. We are building a community on YouTube and on Twitch. So every Saturday at 1 p.m., we live stream this podcast on those two platforms, on Twitch and on YouTube. Wherever you like to follow, if you would like to watch instead of listening, do so by searching for us on there too, on Twitch and on YouTube. Subscribe, of course. That's what we would like you to do so that you can receive notifications when we are on. But if podcast is your thing, if you prefer, of course, the audio podcast, we're cool with that. Every Tuesday we come out, and every Tuesday we have a new episode for you. I am. You can find Jocelyn. Jocelyn, we can't find you anymore, right?
Not at the moment. I will be back. I just have to figure out a couple things.
All right. Well, Jocelyn is taking a break from social media, which is what everybody should do that at least once a year. As for me, you will find me on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook as Mr. Puzzetta. That's MRPUZZETTA. That's MRPUZZETTA. Me, I'm the Graham, and of course, the Jojo. We are calling it a day today, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast. If you found value in our content, please subscribe and share. We would also be delighted to hear what you think of this podcast. So please rate us by writing a quick review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Join the conversation happening today on our Facebook group.